Welcome to the Reify Online Learning Hub. Today, we're diving into the world of data validation. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be equipped with the knowledge to set up validators, which you'll then see in action as you modify data in an order entry application. So why are validators important? They are the unsung heroes that ensure your data remains consistent and error-free. With validators, you can set specific rules for your data, like formats, value ranges, and even relationships between fields. For instance, imagine not allowing a change in the ship date field if an order has already been shipped. Sounds useful, right? These rules aren't just for show. They're enforced across various components like grids and forms, and even during manual saves, such as in workflows. Let's get started. We'll start by setting up a validator for the order line data source. Open the order line data source by double-clicking on it under the Data Sources section. Here, you'll see the various fields that constitute the order line records. One key field is the order line number, which determines the sequence of retrieval from the warehouse. In this order entry system, the person placing the order can manually change the order line number to optimize warehouse operations. However, we need to ensure that the same order line number is never used twice within the same order. We can do that with a validator. First, click on the order line number field to select it. To add a validation rule, click on the Validators button. Let's proceed with adding a new validator by choosing Validator Type from the drop-down list. For this tutorial, we'll opt for the IsUnique validation. This ensures that a particular field value, or even a combination of them, remains unique within the data source. It's important to note that every order line within an order shares the same order number field value. To ensure a record possesses a distinct combination of both the order number and order line number, we'll check the Use Multiple Fields option. First, let's include the order number field in our unique combination. Simply select the checkbox next to order number. Additionally, we'll incorporate the order line number, so go ahead and check the box next to it too. Now, to guide our users when they input invalid data, let's set up an error message. Click on the error field for this. Within this field, enter the message, order/line combination already exists. Once done, save your new validator settings by hitting the Save button. Remember, it's important to also save the modifications to the data source. Do this by clicking the Save button. Let's next create a quick order entry application to see the new validation rules in action. Our first step is to introduce a grid displaying order line records. Simply double-click on the list grid component to add it to the screen. Next, we'll double-click on the order line data source to bind it to the list grid. Now, we need a form to enter the order line record detail, so we'll click on a table layout form. We'll now bind the form to the order line data source. Finally, we want to be able to save the data that we entered in the form, so we'll double-click on the Form button in the list of components and then name the button Save for clarity. With our screen layout set, it's time to make it interactive. When a user selects a record in the list grid, they should be able to view and modify it in the form. So let's add a responsive action for the list grid record selection. We'll begin by selecting the list grid. The action will occur when the user clicks on the record in the list grid, so we'll add an action to the record click event. To do this, we'll go to the Events tab and click on the Actions icon for the record click event. When the click occurs in the list grid, the record will show in the order line form, so select the order line form now. To enable editing of the selected record in the form, we'll opt for Edit Selected. After editing data in the form, users should be able to save their modifications. So next, we'll add an action to our Save button to save the data in the order line form to the data source. We next select the Save button and then click on the Actions icon for the click event. Since our goal is to save the data from the order line form, we select the form and proceed with the Save Data action. While we can now modify existing order lines, we also need a mechanism to introduce a new order line. Let's facilitate this with a new button. We can simply drag and drop a button between the grid and the form. Label the button Add Order Line. Next, click on the Actions icon for the click event of the button. The action will target the order line form, so pick it from the components list. To initiate editing for a fresh record in the order line data source, select the Edit New Record action. Lastly, let's activate editing within the grid. You wouldn't normally do this. Allowing editing via both the grid and a separate form is confusing. We're doing this to demonstrate that a single validator definition caters to both grid and form edits. So select the list grid. We need to change a property of the list grid, so navigate to the Property tab. To enable editing within the grid, simply tick the box labeled Can Edit. That's all set. Let's dive in and see our screen in action, especially focusing on how the validation operates. To do this, click on the Preview icon. Start by selecting the first order line for editing within the form. Now, to trigger our validation, let's modify the value in the order line number field. Input 2 as the new value. Proceed by clicking the Save button. Upon clicking, the validator we integrated with the data source runs before saving data to that data source. Given that a record with the identical order number/order line number combination already exists in the data source, an error pops up, preventing the save. You can hover over the error icon to view the details message. Notice that the order line number value in the list grid remains unchanged, indicating the record wasn't saved. Let's now test a successful validation. Change the order line number to a unique value. We'll use 18. Confirm the change by hitting the Save button. Now, a glance at the list grid shows that your record has been updated successfully, reflecting the new value of 18. Next, let's explore how validation functions when introducing a new record. Click on the Add Order Line button. Input 10100 for the order number. Navigate to the Product dropdown and select a product. For our demonstration, let's pick the 1952 Alpine Renault 1300. For the order line number, we'll input 2. For the quantity ordered, we'll key in 42. Finally, we'll enter a price of $94 for the order line. Proceed by clicking the Save button to store our new order line. Yet again, our validation steps in, preventing the save, this time for our freshly inputted record. The familiar error message surfaces. Now, let's look at grid-based editing to observe that our defined validator is equally effective for grids. For this example, we'll select the record in the list grid with the order detail ID equals 3. Next, we'll change the order line number for the record to 2. Within the list grid, a simple press of the return key confirms your changes, so go ahead and hit return. Notice the error icon that appears adjacent to the order line field in the list grid. This serves as a prompt indicating that the combination of order number and line number isn't unique. The beauty of setting up validation on the data source is its universal application, be it on a form or a grid. And there you have it. You've successfully implemented a validation system that ensures each order line number remains unique within its respective order. Validators are extremely powerful and simple to set up. And because validators are defined centrally in a data source, you never have to repeat yourself. We've covered just one type of validator here, but there are many more to explore. In particular, keep in mind that you can also define conditional validators, which are validators that are active only if your record meets the criteria that you specify. There is a lot of power there. You can do things like check that the expected delivery date is after the ship date, check that a payment is not greater than the amount due, and many similar checks. No developers required. Congratulations, you completed the tutorial.
Reify is a new kind of low-code platform, one you can use on every project, not just for the simple ones. Reify is a radically faster, radically better way to work. Try Reify today for free.